Hello, everybody. This is Edward Rocha, and I am a life and business coach at The Morning Goals, which is a practice that I started over a year ago. And I'm here with my colleague, Cody. Hello, Cody.
Hey Ed, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. So, for everybody on Clubhouse, we are streaming live on both YouTube and Facebook. And for those of you who are watching on Facebook and YouTube, we are on Clubhouse as well. You can find us on all the socials at The Morning Goals. And we're super excited for you guys to be either listening, watching, or watching on repeat later on in the near future. So, we're doing this intro series on purpose to give you guys a little bit more information on our practice at The Morning Goals, but also to give you some information about different things from coaching to consulting. And then the series is going to continue into more of a business focus at this point. And then we have plans for later on to do more of the life coaching components like mindset and affirmations and manifestations and things like that in the very near future. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and put Cody there. So Cody, I will be right back with you. But everybody, so let's talk a little bit about coaching. And so if you watched the first video, which Cody and I did last week on Thursday, what I talked about is what is coaching and what it's not, but also what you could do if you've ever considered hiring a coach. So just to summarize that, coaches help you. They're your cheerleaders. They're there to help guide you. But the philosophy there is that you already have the answers inside and you just need to do them or help, you need help to get them out of you, right? To do it. And so we work on things like accountability and productivity. I myself am a business coach and consultant. And so my focus is to help you expand your side hustle, launch your business, your startup, etc. And so I did mention a little bit about consulting last time, and I wanted to talk about what I call business and life consulting, which is slightly different than business and life coaching. So from a consulting perspective, I've been a consultant, and actually I lean in on my consulting background on purpose, because that's actually a lot of my business experience. So I've worked as a consultant or an outsourced contractor in a consulting capacity for hedge funds, private equity groups, fitness companies, artificial intelligence companies, et cetera. People who want to get my expertise and advice, right? And so I talk about expertise and advice on purpose because that's slightly different than what I do when I coach you, right? So in coaching, we generally use open-ended questions. We generally try not to give you advice because we're basically a partner in your journey and we're guiding you through that journey. And so we're maybe mirroring what you're saying or having you reflect on emotions and feelings, even in business. So everyone's like, what? That sounds crazy when you're talking about business. No, but a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, mompreneurs, or whatever preneur you are, have some block of some kind in their business, whether it's an emotional, financial. We talk a little bit about the conflict within us about quitting a job and going into another. So there's very much an importance on coaching and traditional coaching styles. Consulting, on the other hand, is you are doing what I call two things. One, you are getting an advisor, a mentor, an expert for your business, and you're beefing up your team. Okay, so from the expert part of it, you would hire somebody like me because I do have a background in finance, and that MSM on my name is Master of Science in Management from Boston University. And so we can talk about the finances of your business, the fundraising strategy, if that's necessary, whether you should raise money in a friend and family round or take on investors. So you're asking me for that advice. That's my expertise. And what I tell everybody is if you can't figure it out, but you have a little money to throw at the problem, go hire a consultant or some sort of expert. And then the second part about is beefing up your team. One of the things that I actually did for about 4 or 5 years is that I would go into small or startup hedge funds or private equity groups, and I would be their outsourced director of business development or their outsourced director of investor relations. So because they were small and kind of ramping up their strategies and their teams, what they did was they hired me to fill a void and a gap, but also to develop that position on a part-time basis contractually, so that when they did do the fundraise or they got bigger and made the investments, then they would hire somebody to replace me, or I would hire that person to replace myself, who was then full-time and part of the team. Like, well, why didn't you become full-time and part of the team? Well, because I made way more money taking on multiple clients and working on a part-time basis than I would have made if I was working in-house on the team with the team. So that's how would I say beefing up the team versus sort of experts and being consultant. So me as a consultant or as a business and life consultant, which is slightly different than me being a business and life coach, my consulting abilities allow me to coach better, in my opinion, because I do have more of a practical and functional approach to my coaching and to my consulting. And so what I tell everybody that, like, when you hire me as a coach, you're going to get the consultant. I'm going to be very upfront with you on how I work with you. What's my methodology? How I've developed my practice. But I'm not necessarily your consultant. I am your personal coach working on your business with you as the person, you as the founder, right? When I'm a consultant, I am working on your company with your company, right? And so I'm working sort of in a slightly different capacity, because you as CEO or founder is one person, your company might be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I might need to sort of take a bigger approach to interacting with you and your team and things like that. So my expertise is business development. Building the business and what that actually means. And that means a lot of things for different people. Team building and creation of teams, so human capital. So I have formed the best elite team here with my colleague Cody and our other colleague Delaney, and we're highly efficient and effective. And so that's one of I can identify people pretty well, and then figure out like sort of how to keep them motivated. So my job is to keep Cody motivated as long as possible, so that we can expand that team. But so team building and human capital, and then the third thing is marketing. Marketing and advertising, and so and sales. I put that all in one category, but they're all different things. So branding. So we're obviously all wearing black and our logo's black and white. And so I'm a stickler on creating a brand, and everything should have a brand and should have colors, and you shouldn't play with that brand once you've created, but that brand should represent you. And so my brand is like goals, simple and practical, right? And I want you to take away that we're not fluff, we're not light colors, etc., but branding, marketing, and things like that. And so as your consultant, then my job is to offer you ideas, sometimes play devil's advocate, and then also we're a smart team, put the team together to analyze, what you're doing right and wrong, what you could be doing slightly different, but also taking an objective approach. And right, and so this is kind of that we're taking a step outside, because we're not necessarily in your company. We're a little bit more objective than you are, because you might be slightly more emotionally involved in your company, and sort of then kind of offer you that advice. So as a consultant, I charge the same fee as I do as coaching, and we just sort of have a slightly different understanding as to me, what my role is and why I'm doing that. And so the last part about me as a consultant that I would say is that there are a lot of types of consultants out there. It's a dating process. So in our practice, we actually have a discovery call where you can call and, ask, 30 minutes, who are you? What do you want to do? How can you help me? And things like that. But then I ask, like, what are your goals? Is it I'm working with you? Am I working with your company? Right. So if I'm working with you, maybe we should consider coaching. But if I'm working with your company, then that's obviously a consulting agreement. Okay. And so what I would also say, the second part of this whole speech, and then Cody's going to lead with some questions, is how can you become a consultant? So when I work with some of my clients who are influencers and who are online and do digital marketing and digital strategies and, use some of these methods that they've learned on Facebook and social media and YouTube, what they don't realize is actually that's a skill that a lot of people don't have or don't know how to use effectively. So right there, I might help you make that connection to say, hey, you are using TikTok for your business. And if my market are, ages between 15 and 21, because I'm selling products to that age group, whether it's video games or a clothing line or a clothing brand, right? You might be able to help somebody be able to use TikTok effectively in a marketing strategy. And so as a consultant, your job is to then step in, possibly teach a team like Cody and myself on what you do, how it works, what we should be doing, what we should be thinking about, what we should not be doing, and how not to waste our time, so that we could then adapt that. So teaching as consulting. And I see a lot of people out there who don't realize actually that they could be consultants. And I was like, and I tell everybody, no, you're already doing this. You're probably already offering free advice to people and teaching people who see you on social media or see you doing things, and you might be able to charge them more than you normally would on an hourly basis, and then pick up several, different types of clients along the way, and kind of replicate your teaching model or your consulting model so that you can then make more money. So again, coaching a person and a problem versus consulting to the company and sort of working within the team, either as an outsourced help or expert or beefing up your team. So Cody, I'm going to bring you back up here. Was that helpful?
Yeah, it was. But I do have some questions.
Sure.
So one of the things you said was that there are a bunch of different type of consultants. So say I have my business and I think it's a good idea to reach out to someone. How would I even start that process of sifting through?
Sure. And finding let's do a shout out to your business. What's your business and where can people? I'm going to use it as an example.
Yeah. Okay. So I have a business that is called Unearthing Fernway, and it's built around van lifers and their experiences, and the goal of it is to build up community and bring awareness and equity into that space.
Perfect. Okay. And what would you say is your biggest weakness?
Monetizing my business strategy.
Perfect. Okay. So making money from the business, right? So you have a mission, you have a niche, which is all fantastic, and then you have a message. So as a consultant, I would say that if the monetization thing is important to you, or you need to either, okay, so the problem is he needs to make more money, and there's a catch-22. Do you spend more money to make more money, right? Or, do you already have some money that you can throw at the problem, right? And I think a lot of business owners or entrepreneurs, are in that, in that thought process. So for you, types of consultants that I would recommend is maybe a marketing consultant. Maybe your messaging and your strategy from what you're doing in that community isn't translating effectively in the marketing, which is then not affecting the conversion rate to money in the bank, right? So you might want a marketing consultant. You might want a consultant who helps you invest what you are making, an investment consultant, because people don't realize assets you actually own a van. And so the question I would ask is like, Are you properly insured? Are you overinsured? What happens when your van as your source of income breaks? So what is your, what happens, and where does the money come from, that insurance and all that stuff? And then you might need a strategic management consultant, and talk about what is the strategy of reaching out to the community, and strategically, let's be more intentional about everything that you do, so you're not wasting your time. A fourth one might be time management, and a time management consultant, because you might, like me, might be doing way too much, and we might need to be a little bit more focused, right? So I would say, so that's kind of the types of things you could consider. And where do you find them? There are, LinkedIn. There are things like Thumbtack and Bark.com, and even Craigslist, advertising posts on, websites where you get, you basically write a paragraph of what you need or what you're looking for once you've identified that. And then you get incoming people bidding for that job, like Level Up, or Fiverr is the one that comes to mind, but that's more like gig related. I can't remember the other. There's another one that you could post what you're looking for, and then people with that extra. Upwork, yeah, not Level Up, Upwork, right? So websites like that. And then it's a dating process. So you want to find people who are legitimate, have work experience and consulting experience. Don't be afraid to ask for references, to talk to people, to see who they're actively working with, who they have worked with. Sorry, and also Google, make sure there hasn't been an issue in the past, or and that's important. And I think that before you give them any money, there should be a plan, because generally consultants are more expensive because they're experts in what they're doing, than if you hire a college kid or a recent grad or an employee, right? And so you want to make sure that your money is being used effectively. So just make sure you have a plan.
Perfect. And how long is this relationship that I would have with a consultant?
Yeah, so it depends. That's a great question. So it just depends, right? So I had consulting agreements for years, and so like when I was working, being the outsourced VP of, director of business development, VP of development or investor relations, and blah blah blah. I had these agreements for 2-3 years, but that's not necessarily. But that was what they needed as they were growing and figuring out the business. They didn't need somebody full-time with benefits and stuff. And they knew that I had other consulting arrangements, and some of these guys that I worked with also then would refer me out to other people. So that's that working relationship. However, many of the projects that we have are shorter term projects, right? So, for one of my businesses, my language education company, I know that from November to February 1st, it's hit or miss. It might go great, depending on the year, or it might go horribly wrong. And so that would be a perfect time that I would identify that I might need to beef up the team for 3 months on a contractual basis, to throw everything we have right at the gauntlet. We're marketing, we're advertising, we're making cold calls, et cetera. And I need to beef up the team strategically, so that then we can work on that. And then the other thing is project-based consultants. So you and I are both famous published children's authors. And so, we might have a specific project that will only last for the end of that, till that end of that project, whether it's 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, or a year, right?
And do you, as the consultant, define that, or does the client define that, or do you work together?
Yeah, so all of these things should be a relationship. Whether I'm your coach or your consultant, this is a relationship. You should never get to a point where you hate each other or you're angry at each other. And if it's gotten to that point, that means you have a bad consultant and you have not effectively been an effective leader or boss. So there should always be a relationship building process, a communication process, and that feedback loop, I think, is so important, especially in consulting, because you might have been able to hire one or two people to do this project for you, but you've chosen me, and so I need immediate feedback on purpose so that I can effectively change what I'm doing if I need to do it, or offer you different advice, or offer you different things. And I would say that feedback loop is critical to a successful consulting relationship.
Yeah. So then one last question about the finding a consultant. Any other pieces of advice for what we should look for?
Yeah. So if you look at my profile, it's a great way to look at a consultant. But I would say you can look at you, so you will know what you want, I would say. And so when people look at me, they see a varied business and experienced background. So I worked in finance. I have a master's in finance. I worked in education, launched an education company, published education books. Now I'm a master coach in a coaching and consulting firm, focusing on small businesses and startups and creatives and influencers. So that background, and I speak 5 languages. So that background might be something that is attractive to a lot of people. However, some people may be like, wow, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. He wants to do he does too much, etc. But I would say that my varied experience gives me a very big perspective on how I can analyze and chop up your business in different ways and offer you advice. Somebody else might have only been in marketing their entire life. They have a bachelor's in marketing, a master's in marketing, an MBA in marketing. They went to Goldman Sachs and did marketing. They left Goldman Sachs and started a marketing agency. They do digital marketing, etc. And so their bread and butter is only marketing. And that might be appealing to some people. So I would say that, it just depends on sort of what you're looking for and your personality as well, because you're ultimately creating a bigger team, right, as the boss of the company, and looking at these different things are very important. So either you want the deep, specific person in their own lane, or you want somebody who might be considered what a generalist, but my expertise is in management, right, and team building and company creation, and I have a proven track record for that. Wow, that sounded like a commercial, Cody.
That was perfect.
Question.
That was perfect. And let's say for Unearthing Fernway, I want a business consultant, and of course, I come to you, Ed, as the best business consultant around. And I work with you for 6 months, and I just absorb things like a sponge.
Yeah.
I identify my strengths within my business, and then I want to turn that into consulting because I'm inspired. Yeah. What would you recommend that I do? What path should I take?
Yeah. So what I would say is that, based on your expertise, you can be a consultant either full-time or part-time. Maybe you need to make extra money, and maybe you need to, or you want to lean in on it and go all in and become a consultant for people in the van life community, etc. I would say have a plan, as always. That's one of the things that I talked about that we will be talking about actually in these intro series of the morning goals. Have a plan. And then also as a consultant, your probably quickest way to get clients is your immediate group of friends and your natural network, which is different actually than coaching. So in coaching, we don't want to coach our friends because there might be some emotional things that pop up. There might be some issues that are more personal in nature, and so we generally don't coach our friends and family. In a consulting thing, if they have a company and objectively you're an expert and can talk about these things or whatever, actually I would say that your friends and family and people that you know and acquaintances are probably a great place to start for consulting, because then you're using your relationships to offer your expertise in with the business, not with the person, but with the business. And then obviously there's some tangible results you're probably going to be offering them as you go. So I would say your natural network is probably friends and family. I would say it's okay. Be careful. Obviously, you don't want to ruin those relationships. So start with that. But then places like LinkedIn are great ways for to be a consultant and to offer your consulting services by saying hi to people and networking or creating relationships. I actually hate the word networking. I think we should all create relationships.
Perfect. Well, I mean, that answers all my questions. I feel like I'm about ready to have a new way to monetize my business. So look at that. In the 30-minute call, we've identified the problem and fixed it.
Boom.
So, yeah, consulting on the spot.
So everybody who's made it this far, go find him on Unearthing Fernweh. That's FERNWEH.com. You can find him on the socials. He also is one of my colleagues here at The Morning Go. So Cody, I'm going to throw you back to the side and wrap this up for us. Okay, everybody. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Cody, very much for that. And again, this is our intro series. We're going to be taking topics from a very basic level. Last week, we did our first one, which was introduction to coaching. So for those of you who have been interested in coaching and what coaching might look like or might not look like, do that one first. From a consulting perspective, right? I'm now working on your business, not necessarily working on you, but I'm working on your business, and I'm giving you advice and expertise based on my skill set, and I'm offering that as a service. Right, and the price for those two things are the same. You can visit us on our website at www.themorninggoals.com. We're going to be live every Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, so 8:30 Central. And it's probably going to be too early for the West Coast. You guys can watch it on repeat. So again, go find us on the socials at The Morning Goals or www.themorninggoals.com. And with that, thank you, Cody. Thank you, everybody on Clubhouse. Thank you, everybody on both YouTube and Facebook. And we're going to keep adding more places to stream. So super excited, and have a great morning, everybody. Bye, Cody.